All right, everyone. We start off today with some troubling news out of the state of Oregon. Apparently, they're no longer going to do risk assessments on some sex offenders. Now, sex offense does run a gamut. There's a big difference between somebody who raped a 2-year-old and somebody who was 17 and sent a selfie of themselves to a couple of friends and it spread and they got arbitrarily labeled a sex offender. By the way, I don't agree with that happening. So there is a plethora. But Oregon has decided that the situation of why a sex offender's charge would be levied against a person, it's not particularly material. It doesn't matter. Oh, the 16-year-old sent nude selfies of themselves. They're basically the same as somebody who spit roasted a baby with another dude. That's not real. It's not realistic. What they've decided to do instead is base it on age. Because they have such a huge backlog of sex offenders, because apparently, unbeknownst to me, Oregon is the sex offender capital of the country. Basically, it's like being in Uganda or something like that, I suppose. They've decided to base it on age. So, if you've decided to sexually abuse a child in the state of Oregon and you're 34, they're going to give you a risk assessment. But if you're 36, they won't give you a risk assessment. They've literally decided to make an arbitrary cutoff at the age of 35 for bothering to do so at all. So they're more interested in going after people that are on the younger side. Now, of course, are people who are younger more physically capable of committing sex abuse? Perhaps. And this brings up a question, though. Many sex abuse cases, I mean, the severe ones, like actual rape and molestation stuff, they take place within a family. So a child, somebody, a cousin or something like that, they take place in a familial setting. Most people think that it's Bozo the Clown with the white unmarked van offering kids candy out by the street corner outside the school. That's actually not that common. It does happen. There is plenty of human trafficking in the United States now, thanks to Biden's shitty border policy. Most often, though, it happens within the family, or it happens within a close circle of friends. What do these people generally have in common? Let's say they're banging a 10-year-old. They tend to be over 35. If they've had a kid, chances are they didn't have the kid when they were 18 now, idiot, did they? So the plethora of individuals that would actually be impacted by this are people who screwed their own family members and things like this and are now in their 40s or 50s or something like that. This is depraved. This is about the opposite of a proper public policy. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Link in the description, archived, of course. When I read this, I'm like, well, what are these people smoking? Wait, again, as with many other cases, don't bother answering. It's a rhetorical question. Well, I believe that everyone chain smokes weed in that state at this point. Portland, by the way, is a complete mess, but that's more due to left-wing antagonism. You're saying that the cohort of individuals that are most likely to offend and or reoffend aren't even going to be checked up on. Well, I'm sure that that makes every abused 10-year-old in the state feel really, really safe tonight, because most of those individuals are going to be over 35. Well, no need for a risk assessment. We ran out of resources. We've got a backlog. Now, I would think a more sane policy is assuming that you physically can't, do risk assessment for everyone in the system on a regular basis. Prioritize those on intake that have a high level of possibility of reoffending, base it on how severe the crime was. Again, the 16-year-old that technically manufactured Pea's Pizza because they sent a selfie to a friend and then it got spread around the school is probably not a pervert. They shouldn't even be charged with a crime. They should get therapy instead. Although I don't really believe in therapy either, and it's like you can't do anything about it. It happens all the time, I guess. Apparently it's a systemic issue. No, what you should do is go after people who are mass raping people. They are trafficking people. They are molesting their own child. Something like that. Prioritize them. Don't base it on age. What does it matter if the person is 34 or 36? It makes no difference. The crime is the same. What are you people thinking? I'm reading up the article. I'm like, mouth agape, basically, because I'm like, how stupid can you possibly get? Makes absolutely no sense. Not from a public protection perspective, not from a legal perspective, not from an ethical perspective, not from any logical perspective. It's just it's a total snafu. But here's the thing. Then I started thinking, well, this is the state of Oregon. Let's see. Oh, they're run by Portland, basically. Well, now I probably know why. Because the people running the show there are fundamentally insane. No offense to any Oregonian thinkers, but yeah, the state's government is a little bit messed up in the head. It's a state that I'm probably never going to visit, which is sad because it has such a nice climate and so many beautiful things in it, but then you've got, random Antifa, activity and stuff like that. Sort of a little bit like Washington State, only slightly warmer. It's funny to think this was the pioneer state. This was the place that everyone went to get away from corruption and stupidity and to just go farm and have 3 crops a year because of the climate. And now it's literally falling apart. Rather sad when you think about it. Of course, yeah, I think like grizzly bears and shit there too to contend with. So, good luck on passing more anti-gun legislation, asshole. This is insane. Let's just call a spade on this one. Not doing risk assessments because of a person's age, if they have committed a significant crime, does not make sense. It makes much more sense to base the level of need to do the risk assessment on intake, preferably speaking, by the way, based on the level and nature of the crime. So, again, one person was a day under 18 years old and sent a nude selfie to someone. They're charged with manufacturing and spreading child pornography. That's not really a terrible criminal evil thing to do now, is it? There's a picture of themselves. Should it be spread around? Absolutely not. Should it be done? No. But that person, it doesn't prove that they're perfect. Now let's say someone in Oregon is 36 and they decided to molest several children. Apparently, they're not going to do a risk assessment. Does that make any goddamn sense whatsoever? If you've got limited resources, and I can imagine due to fiscal mismanagement, the state of Oregon probably does, so that part is actually true, you should base it on the severity of the crime. You should not be basing it based on a person's age. Well, this 34-year-old, he's a real threat to society, but this 37-year-old who did the same thing, we're not going to bother checking up on him, or in some cases her. By the way, notice that there's a gender undertone to this as well. We get stories all the time about female pedophiles, literal ones, and that are molesting kids and stuff like that. They get relatively less punishment, especially if they happen to be relatively young and attractive, than their male cohorts. Have you noticed this? Because I certainly have, and Pepperidge Farm goddamn remembers. I've seen numerous examples of this. Oh, teacher screwed her elementary school student. But, it's okay. So, she got probation. Or say, she's real sorry about it. You notice that there's a little bit of a disconnect on gender as well. I'm just saying. That's about all. Peace out.